In the darkness and despair of war, a light is shining in Gaza. A former terrorist who turned to Christ reports that Gaza's Christians are serving their community. And Jesus is appearing to people in dreams and visions. In the darkness and despair of war, a light is shining in Gaza. A former terrorist who turned to Christ
In the midst of tragedy and unimaginable agony, in the midst of war-torn Gaza, a headline unlike any other started to ripple around the globe. God is intervening.
200 Gazans gave their heart to Jesus in one lump sum because the Lord appeared to them in visions and dreams, and they were hugging each other and rejoicing, and realized that all 100.
Imagine waking up one morning and hearing rumors echo across continents. Whispers that something unthinkable had occurred in one of the most ravaged places on the planet. Gaza, a place defined for decades by anguish, tragedy, and segregation, suddenly was the focus of global attention. But this time, not because of missiles or politics. Not another disaster. Something so outside the norm that it flummoxed both reason and logic, nay, even faith itself. Reports began coming in. Thousands of women, men, and children in Gaza reported having a vision that shook their very foundations, a vision of Jesus Christ. The world scoffed at first. Skeptics dismissed it as rumor, propaganda, or fantasy of a desperate people. But witness after witness stepped forward, first by hundreds, then by thousands. Something unstoppable began to coalesce. Could it be? Could it be that in one of the most unlikely places on the planet, following war, Jesus Christ had manifested, transformed lives in an instant? And before we dive into this incredible story, wait 1 minute. If you believe in history, religion, and prophecy, subscribe to this channel. Because what we're going to discover is not only a story, it's a revelation that could shake the globe. Alright, so let's go on a ride with me to Gaza and discover what meeting has left millions agog.
Many Muslims are looking for an alternative to Islam. I do believe we're going to have a lot of revival, a lot of believers coming through. It's already happening. Many Muslims are looking for an alternative to Islam. I do believe we're going to have a lot of revival, a lot of believers coming through. It's already happening.
Gaza has, for centuries, been a name etched in blood, war, and endless conflict. Ancient empires contended over its land, and history remembers it as the inheritance of the Philistines, the same land on which Samson had brought down the pillars of Dagon's temple. It was a pawn between Egypt, Israel, and Rome subsequently. And even in our contemporary age, Gaza is still remembered for sieges, airstrikes, and the never-ending cycle of war. Generations have been raised here with nothing but loss and terror. Thousands have died, millions eternally marred. Religion infuses every corner of this nation. Islam the dominant faith, with only a small remnant of Christians. By any estimation, Gaza would be the worst place on earth for hope to germinate. But history gives testimony to a bewildering fact. God has a tendency to choose the darkest valleys in which to shine brightest light. As the prophet Isaiah so long ago spoke, the people who dwelled in darkness have seen a great light. On those who dwelled in the land of deep darkness, a light has shone. Isaiah 9 verse 2. Could it be that Gaza itself, this same land of devastation and hopelessness, was the stage on which that ancient prophecy played out once more? It began quietly. A whisper here, a rumor there. Gaza families reported visions and dreams of a man wearing radiant white, whiter than the sun, introducing himself as Isa al-Masih, Jesus the Messiah. Initially, the accounts were sparse and sporadic. Then the hundreds, the thousands. In a few days, the testimonies burst forth in numbers. Thousands and thousands came forward to report the same man, the same presence. A few swore they saw him walking down shattered streets, his presence enough to render them peaceful as never before. A few more testified to healing miracles, the blind gaze coming into being, the lame walking, wounds vanishing as if they had never occurred. Mothers whispered to one another in awe that their children woke up at night, wide-eyed, gesturing toward the heavens, talking of the man up there. And before those rumors could spread like wildfire, something even more amazing began to occur. Hearts began to change, one by one, then by crowds. Then by the thousands, individuals began to avow faith in Jesus Christ. Not a few scattered testimonies, but a tidal wave of change sweeping across the land. Estimates indicated that well over tens of thousands of Muslims in Gaza and the West Bank declared Jesus as Lord within weeks of these things happening. It was not an insubstantial change. It was open, bold, and relentless. Entire communities emerged to proclaim their new faith. Previous imams and religious leaders stood in front of their flocks and declared, "We have seen the Messiah. He lives. He is Lord." The words of Acts chapter 2 rang in their ears again when Peter stood up and spoke, and there were added unto the church 3,000 that day. All that believed his word were baptized, and around 3,000 were added to their number that day. Acts 2 verse 41. But here it was not merely 3,000. It was thousands and thousands. A woman testified regarding her vision in the following words. "I saw him standing in my house though doors were closed. He extended his hand, and the pain I had in my body disappeared. He told me, 'Do not be afraid. I am with you from then on. I know that he is more than a prophet. He is the Son of God.'" Another, a young man who used to profane Christians, wept as he recounted, "I had a dream about him for 3 straight nights. On the 3rd night, he looked at me and said, 'I died for your sake.' I woke up trembling." Christians around the world were asking, could this be a fulfillment of biblical prophecy? The Bible promises a day when all nations will receive the good news and multitudes will come to Christ. The prophet Joel wrote, "And afterward, I will pour out my spirit on all people. Your sons and daughters will prophesy. Your gray-headed men will have dreams. Your young men will see visions." Joel 28. And in the Revelation, John saw a vision of the final harvest. "Then I looked, and before me was a vast throng that no one could count from all nations, tribes, people, and languages standing before the throne and before the Lamb." Revelation 7 verse 9. Could this gigantic wave of conversions in Gaza be a foretaste of that multitude? Could we be witnessing the finger of God acting through one of the most unlikely regions of the world? The world could not bear to look away from what was happening. Governments were scrambling for a response, not knowing how to handle the situation. Religious leaders were crying out vehemently. Was this for real or was it fake? Both religious and secular media found it difficult to report on the event without bias. Some called it the largest revival since the Apostles' time. Others feared that it would fuel more conflict in the already troubled region. But irrespective of opinions, the fact remained. Thousands of lives had been transformed by an experience they attested to be an encounter with Jesus himself. What is most striking about this account is not the number of conversions, but the location. Gaza is a place that is regarded by many as being a symbol of despair, a lost land. But in God's eyes, there is no area too shattered, no people too lost. The Apostle Paul reminds us in Romans, where sin increased, grace increased all the more. Romans 5:20. If grace is able to cascade over Gaza, if light can penetrate the darkest of corners, then certainly there is no end to the depth of God's love. Thousands of conversions, visions of Christ in the heart of Gaza, lives transformed, families healed, and a region shaken to its very foundations. Whether the world is going to accept it or not, something has happened, something that cannot be explained by politics, propaganda, or human ingenuity. It makes us all ask ourselves, what if it's true? What if Jesus Christ continues to appear, continues to heal, continues to invite people to him in the darkest recesses of the world? For those who have witnessed it, there is no doubt. They have seen him. They believe. And their lives will never be the same. That is the #1 story shaking the world today. If you enjoyed this documentary eye-opening, be sure to subscribe and bear with us as we explore more about how faith and history come together in ways that leave us in awe of God's power.